In the darkest nights, we find our light, battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey guys, how are you? I have missed you all so very much. I am so sorry that I had to cancel Wednesdays, but May is going to be a tough month, guys. My work, we have a May 31st deadline that we're working towards, and it is just all cylinders go. So I've already been working this morning, both on the channel and also my regular work. So bear with me during May. It's going to be a little bumpy. I'm going to try and keep as many lives as I can. May need to switch some things around. May miss one or two. We'll have to see. But I'm going to try and keep as much as I can. Let's see who all is here. Oh, Janet, we have missed you. She has been on this wonderful big vacation visiting family. Oh, I probably should have asked you that before I said it. I think you've told everybody though. So let's see. Sandy, good to see you. Shannon, wonderful. Glad you're here. Crystal, I am so glad you're here. Deaudrey, I gotta say that right. Deaudrey Gore, so glad. You are getting closer and closer to Ireland every day. That is so exciting. Let's see, who else am I missing here? Steeris. I will make this announcement a couple of different times. Steeris has got a channel, a new channel. Her name's Laura Lynn, by the way, if you guys don't know. And I have put a link to her channel in my description below. She has, she talks about toxic relationships on her channel. Great subject for a lot of us, right? And she is so close to 80 subscribers. So if you guys have not subscribed, if you haven't checked out her channel, pop on over there after the live though, and check it out, okay? Let's see if we can't get her to her goal, all right? That'd be absolutely wonderful. And I'll make an announcement later on, probably towards the end of the live when we've got a different set of people here as well. So, Sunrise Dawn, so glad to see you. Mark, I am so glad that you have joined us as well. Who am I missing? I think that's it for right now in terms of roll call. But if I did miss anybody, I am so sorry. I will try and catch you as the comments roll streaming by. All right, let's see. Still haven't been able to fix this little block thing. Honest guys, I have no idea what to do. I haven't a clue as to why it's like that because it's on full screen. I have no idea what happened in the first place. If anybody does have an idea, let me know. I use StreamYard, so, you know, just in case you're curious. That is it. I have checked settings. I got my camera. I got, let's go layouts. Let's see if we've got, you know, I don't know. Let's check this, see what happens. Nope, that made it worse, didn't it? All right. So I have to do this when you guys are on here because otherwise otherwise I don't ever see it. All right, all the other ones are checked and they're just, they're checked because I can use them then. And there are options down below. So I don't know. No idea. All right. Well, I may have to see if I can get Cosmic Christie. Welcome. So glad you're here. Lacey, so good to see you. I have missed you guys so much. You have no idea. You really do lift me up. I always feel better when I'm here. Clear browsing data, reload. Huh. Probably going to have to do that afterwards. Because I think if I reload the site right now, I'm not sure what's going to happen with you guys being on the live. So maybe we'll try that later. Unless, Laura Lynn, do you promise me that live's still going to be here and all you guys are still going to be here if I do that? I don't want to lose you all. Probably after that's what Google says to do. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll ask him too. So no, don't do it. Yeah, I don't want to lose you guys. By the way, it is hotter than Hades up in my office. And that is because this is what summer is going to bring. But if I open the window, I am afraid of all the noises you guys might hear. I don't know if it'll filter through. I mean, I hear it, but I don't know if you guys. Probably best not to play with the settings mid live. Deandra says, "I'm agreeing with you. I'm definitely agreeing with you on that." All right. Well, we have some housekeeping issues before we get into today. I decided to do today about trauma and clutter. I know that I am still owing some child on child abuse videos and some other ones that I kind of got halfway through the subject matter and switched to something else. But I needed this subject today. I really did. I'm feeling overwhelmed with work. I work and I eat and I sleep, and that's pretty much it right now. So I cannot get to anything that I want to get to, and it's driving me insane. And there's things in my office, particularly because this is where I am all the time, right? Working, that I'm looking at going, I need to put that away. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do. So that's physical clutter, right? Physical clutter that's around here. And we're going to talk about that today. So first off, though, my description, I really hope nobody here actually had real tornadoes. Crossing my fingers, because I know some of you guys are right in that, bad tornado alley. And I would just absolutely hate to know that any of you guys got hit. That would, whew. Shannon, 92 feels like 106. Wowzers. See, I have not turned on any air conditioning, but it does not matter because my heat does not get up to my third floor, neither does my air. So you might have to deal with a hum in August of a fan, because otherwise I'm just going to be sweating bullets, and it's just not going to be pretty. Yes, Mark, I am. I'm busy for a very good reason, and I'll tell you, I'm loving it. It's a sad subject matter, but it's what we've all lived through. It's what I deal with, and I really do. I'm enjoying every day of it. And I wish I could say more about it, because there's so much I could say that would relate, to us and our channel and what we do, and I can't. It has been really hard to keep my mouth shut about my channel, but I have done it. I'm so proud of myself. But still quite cool here still quite cool in Alberta. I would imagine you had snow like 3 weeks ago, didn't you? Something like weird like that. So I can imagine you did. New Jersey, you're pretty much insulated. Yeah, for the odd hurricane, like what was that one that just flooded like all the streets a number of years ago? I remember that. Wasn't that Hurricane Sandy? Wasn't that Sandy? Did you go through there, Sandy? I'm kind of thinking it might have been. Um, so let's start with a few of our housekeeping matters. And I already talked about that. And I talked about that. Rock on. Like and subscribe, guys. If you haven't, I'm going to give you all a quick moment to pop over to that like button. And I'll just sit here for a moment. So all you can do it. And we'll do this at the end before I actually end too. Give guys a moment, because I know it gets forgotten. And I do it with so many people's as well. It's just, you're like, woohoo, I did that, and off we go. But that like really, really does help, even if you want to hit the thumbs down. YouTube does not care. The algorithm does not care, but it helps push my videos into people's feeds. And the more it gets in front of people, the more people are clicking on it, the more views we're getting, the more it's putting out in front of people. And that's basically the advertising for the channel. It's not in general something people are going to go searching for. I think people probably don't even realize they can search for something like this. So I've tried my best to put some different hashtags on that might be tangentially related to what we're talking about, so that people can start getting some of our content as well. But really, getting into people's feeds and word of mouth is our biggest forms of advertising, of getting out there and talking to more people. I see some of you guys bring people in, and that's wonderful. And that's how the word's going to spread mostly of this. And the more people we can help, and the more people that they can get the tools that we talk about here, and just the community that we've built, the better, right? I mean, I'm just so thrilled. Flixlocks, it's so wonderful you're here. I think that's the only new one that just. Sandy, you got snow 2 weeks ago. Holy moly. Yeah, I can honestly say we have not had any snow in quite a while. We have had up and down. I mean, we've been 50, we've been 75, and this is Michigan in the spring, and it's this roller coaster along with allergies. So it's a fun time. But the cottonwoods have not started flying yet, so I'm actually doing pretty okay. Once they start going, guys, you're probably going to notice me on the live, and I'm going to be scratching my nose a lot, because that is my allergy response to cottonwoods. My nose itches. Don't ask me why. It's just the way it is. So I'll try and remember to put like some anti-itch cream on my nose before I go live, so I'm not doing that constantly with you guys. But that's just where it is. I am in Michigan, and I'm not sure if that was Miss Sunrise Dawn. I don't know if you were asking me or asking some other people, but Michigan, I'm not quite as far north, obviously, as Janet is. Max in Germany, so he's got a whole host of other situations. You're pretty online, par with, I don't know, I would think the northern part of the U.S., right? I'd have to look at a map and see, because I know, Germany is pretty big this way and this way. Lost the cottonwoods there. Janet, I'm going to wait until you move, okay, to visit. Yeah. Bee pollen, lots of bee pollen getting you guys. Oof. Yeah. I have some people who are allergic, some people are allergic to like grasses and initial pollens, the things that pop up out of the ground, when all the new sprouts are coming through. And I just have some friends who are absolutely miserable now, and it's not fun at all. Allergies are not fun. And even medication sometimes doesn't seem to do a difference. I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty bad allergy season, and we've started it, and it will not end here until probably the end of September. And I feel for you guys down south. I'll probably, like October-ish, maybe, visit anybody who's down south, because that'll be a nice break from our cooler weather here. And hopefully your allergies will be, pollen and stuff will be down. But we've had some pretty bad allergy seasons here the past few years. It's been kind of nasty. Oh my gosh, Deaudra, you have to get shots for them, shots for the allergies. Wow, that's that's serious. That's some serious stuff. Miss Sunrise Dawn, you were born and raised in Ann Arbor, A squared. Oh my gosh, yeah, I go right by there when I visit another friend, another one of our subscribers, and um, Jen, she's over in Detroit, and so I go right by you, and you still have family in Ypsilanti. Hey, I'm only a couple hours away, less than that actually. And speaking of Jen, can we throw up a few ones for Jen and just kind of keep her in your prayers? She's got COVID again for like the third time. Her and a whole bunch of other people got it at the place where she was working. So it's not just her. Somebody came to a wedding reception with COVID and it just spread through. And I think from what I understand is once you have it, it's a lot easier for you to get it. I think the idea was once you got it, your immune system was going to buff itself up, and it'd be more difficult to get. But it really kind of seems to be the opposite. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But yeah, she's feeling pretty miserable and has been for since Monday, I think it's been. So we'll cross our fingers and hope that it ends for here. I know it's just been awful with that. Um, ba, 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 da, da. I don't need to do that because we're not simulcast. I tried to get a simulcasting today. I was a little late in letting Spanx know about it, so I was hoping maybe we'd be able to get the word out by me popping into the live this morning, Lifeboat Live, but didn't end up happening. But we'll do another one, and I'll try and this time get the word out a little quicker, and then we'll actually be able to. Oh, your grandmother was born and raised in Ann Arbor. You in North Georgia. I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, still, I mean, if you ever make your way up here, you definitely have to let us know because we will have a little party. Because we've got a bunch of people who were within the short, driving distance of Michigan, and we would definitely love to meet you guys. Let's see. I'm hoping that if anybody was thinking about the simulcast, because I know a lot of people in the lifeboat this morning were like, "Ooh, that's a great topic," and I hope they think to come here if they get on the lifeboat and there's nothing there. So we'll see if maybe we get some people later on that kind of trickle on over here. But I also have one other thing, and I'm going to see how well this works. I'm going to try and share my screen. Shannon, I am actually equidistant between Chicago and Detroit, believe it or not. So I guess, it depends on where in Chicago you're talking about. Just to get to Chicago, get the other side, that's Chicago traffic. So, but I'm actually technically equidistant between you guys. So it's kind of 6.5 hours to there. And again, it depends on where in Detroit you're going. Detroit itself is like 2 hours, but to get anywhere within Detroit, if you're talking, Livonia or any of the kind of areas you still say Detroit, right? But it takes an extra half hour, 45 minutes to get there. It's the same type of thing with Chicago. From O'Hara. Well, I'm going to say maybe 3.5 hours, and that's just because of traffic. Just getting out of O'Hara and getting to the Skyway. So getting to the, northeast part of Chicago to where you can hop on the Skyway, and you take the Skyway right on into 96 and or 94, and just, you pop right on up to me. So yeah, so either one for us. Metro Airport is probably closer because it's closer to downtownish. So I think it's a little closer to get to, other than trying to fight the traffic in Chicago. So if you're flying in terms of me visiting, that's probably going to be the easier way to go. Let me share my screen if this works. All right. Hopefully you guys are seeing what I am seeing. You should be. There we go. All right. This guitar, let me see if I can make it bigger. That makes it bigger. No, it doesn't make it any bigger here. But so this guitar is my son's senior project. He graduated. Mama done did it. He is out of high school. So very proud of him. He started a full-time job. He's officially a working man, and I couldn't be prouder of him. He's a great, great welder. So this was his senior project. This was his last project that he did. And they actually take everybody who is in these programs, and he took second in regionals. Very, very proud of him. He was a little upset that he didn't take first because first was a cactus. And he, it wasn't all that great. But there were judges that felt that only the welds themselves should be judged, not the whole project. So they were only looking like at the weld joints and stuff, whatever it is. So anyway, he took second in regionals. So he went on to state, and he took second in state, guys. Mama's so, so, so proud. Absolutely wonderful. I couldn't be prouder. So, and I said, well, gosh, you took second in states, what did the first place look like? This is his words to me. Mom, I don't even feel bad that I lost to the first place winner, because wait till you see it. So it might be hard to tell with my screen share, but this was the first place winner. I wish I could make this bigger for you guys, but I can't because of the way our screen is. But it's pretty darn detailed and pretty intricate, and a lot of small things with this. And congratulations to them. There are no nationals, so unfortunately they don't go on from anywhere from here. So it's just the states, but a wonderful end to his high school career. So he is welding now, doing actually a totally different type of weld than he's learned before. So that's wonderful, because now he has something even, something additional to add to his resume if he decides to move on from this company. So it's just fabulous. Yeah, let me check. Yeah, it is. It is. It is here's the scoop right here. So it is a scoop welder, and being, and so, I mean, this semi, if I could, blow it up more, you guys would see the semi and how detailed that thing is. So yeah, it pretty darn impressive. All right, let's see if I can stop sharing my screen there. There we go. Woohoo! Look at me. Oh, Sharon, so glad you're here. Yeah, a freaking semi, right? I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. So, a friend of mine wants to help my son if he's interested in either selling the guitar, because it really is a piece of art. I mean, even that stand he made, and it's here. It's heavier than I'll get out. It weighs like 60 pounds all total. It's I was thinking, I'm like, oh hey, got nice thing I could a burglar with. I can't even lift the darn thing, so it's not going to go doing anything with that. You're about to be a grandma? Miss Sunrise Dawn, congrats. Oh my gosh. And your youngest is in preschool, just graduated preschool. Oh my, you've got a little bit of a gap there between your kids, don't you? Wow. But congratulations on almost becoming a grandma. That'll be so exciting. You'll just have to give us pictures when that comes along. If you want them put up, just send them to me, and I'd be happy to put grandbaby up there. That is just fabulous. So no, but I tell you, it actually, he did make the strings. He did tune them slightly. So when you pluck them, they did make a note, and they did make notes on a scale. Unfortunately, we think that some of the judges got a little carried away doing that at regionals, so they ended up breaking one of the strings. So it didn't quite have all its strings when it went to state, but oh well. Your son would fall in love with it, Stacy. Lacey, well, Stacy. I was going with the S on silver. Um, yeah, I think if he advertised it a little bit, he could definitely. Somebody else, another one of my friends said leasing it to someplace like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have no idea if they'd be interested, but someplace that would want to lease it would want to have it on display for a while because it's the best of both worlds. You get the money right from it, and you get to keep your art, so you're not giving it away. I think he's torn on whether or not he wants to sell it, um, depending on the buyer, depending on what kind of situation he got in. He really could get a pretty darn penny for it, but it's kind of like his infinity table, his infinity cube that he made last year. Um, he's thought about parting with it, but again, I think he'll probably end up keeping both of these. So maybe when he has a setup where he can actually have welding equipment at home and he can make things in his spare time, he'll make things either for commission or just make things that then he can sell. Um, I think he'd probably do that. So we'll have to see. I do not have the setup. Last summer, he was trying to see if he could put some stuff on the patio. No, it just does not go that way. This place is not built for it, and I'm really thinking that the homeowners association, the condo association, would probably ink-snay that too as well. So we'll uh, we'll leave that for when he gets someplace else. Yeah, we have got the spread here, don't we? We definitely have the spread in terms of kids and ages and who's where in their lives. It's a cat overseas. Oh, brother. Well, he is my only one, so I am done. And all I said is, don't make any babies anytime soon. Live your life. That's what I want for him. And he wants to be able to, travel and get out and explore the world too. And more power to him. Wonderful. I did it my way. He's gonna do it his. I'm not gonna keep him at home. I just support him. I just said you still got to call me, and you still got to come home once in a while. Those are my only like conditions on that. So I don't want to go those years without seeing him because he's somewhere else that I'm not. So that's those are my only conditions with that. So who is ready to talk about? Oh, not yet. We're not ready to talk about it. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. This is freaking hilarious. Some didn't know they were twins until they walked the stage together. They probably just seen one and then saw the other and just thought they were seeing the same person, right? We actually had, I think, at least 2 or 3 sets with it, in my son's graduating class, and some were fraternal, but I think there's one pair of identical twins. They don't. for us, we went in alphabetical order. And for them, they just go in whatever order they're there. They give them a little card, and that's their name, and that's how they get announced. And, they go across the stage. So it wasn't like you could always tell by that. But I have to say this. How many of you had more than one person with a 4.0 in your graduating class? I can tell you, I only had one. The next person was like a 3.98 or something like that. I mean, like an almost, so darn close, but we had one. The reason I say this is because when they called the 4.0 people, they had to decide on valedictorian, salutatorian based on something other than a 4.0. So it was, what awards did you win? What scholarships did you get? What else did you do in class? Were you a member of National Honor Society? Were you, president of the student council? What else did you do? Shannon, you had more than one. How many did you have, though? Do you remember? Todd, I'm so glad you're here. And guys, if anybody has individually contacted me, whether through email or directly, and I have not responded, I apologize. Again, May is just tough. There's a lot of things I want to do and a lot of things I want to be able to talk about with the channel. And I think it's going to wait until June. I don't have the bandwidth to do anything about it. So we're just not going to be. You don't have that system in England, really? That's interesting. Huh. Well, as somebody who is old school, I'll say that, because we had one. Even if you had two, three, a handful, my son's class had 94 guys, 94 kids with a 4.0. Now, either his class was the smartest class that has ever graduated, or standards have gotten a little bit different. That's all I got to say about that. So yeah, 94. I literally was just like so shocked. It was unbelievable. You rarely see your eldest because he's busy with wife and work. Yeah, it does. It gets so complicated. And it's the thing with my son, I know once he truly gets going with his life and gets going other places that, I don't know when I'll see him. I don't know how things will go. So I definitely try and see him and talk to him as much as I can now. And things are going well for him. So we'll say, you didn't have that in your school either. Is that all throughout Canada? Janet, you're a Canadian. Do you guys not have 4.0 things? Do you guys just have marks? So interesting. Deandre, how are things down in you guys? How do they do things in high school for you in South Africa? Oh, wow. So Deandre, if you guys don't know, she's in South Africa. I spent most of my adult life teaching at university. Trust me when I say standards are dropping. The age of the participation trophies, Shannon says, absolutely, absolutely. And, there's so many people that I have spoken to and even some YouTubers that I've watched some things on, and how my generation, which, I'm Gen X, I think we have a lot of Gen Xers here, how they're feeling about the millennials, but and the Gen Zs in particular, to how we wanted to give them more than we had. And so we coddled them a little bit more, and then the next generation coddled even more. And we've kind of ended up with lower standards. People would take less responsibility. It's kind of the average, right? And it is a shame. It is a shame. Huh. So Janet says, and she's in Alberta, that your daughters graduate with a 4.0s. Congratulations to them. Woohoo! So that's got to be different. That's really interesting that it's not the same all throughout Canada. My other's keeper, Kim, welcome. So glad you could join us today. Yes, Gen X. Yes, raise a hand. Whoop, whoop, if you're Gen Xers. There are some hilarious Gen X videos on the internet that I have just died laughing with because they are so true. And I may have told you this. I'm not sure if I shared this little tidbit, but there was somebody put out a TikTok. It was this guy and was just like, all these Gen Xers talking about drinking out of hoses and like that was some like rite of passage or whatever. It was just like, he goes, was the sink not an option? And this lady responds, and she's just like, you got to understand when we were growing up in the summertime, our parents kicked us out after breakfast and they expected us back for dinner and or when the street lights came on. You did not go in the house otherwise. I mean, I did literally, my parents did not lock the door, but I knew some parents who did. Because it is true, it gets to be a revolving door. It's like in, out, in, out, in, out, and it drives you insane. And I can attest to this because when my son was working on his car and he needed stuff, his parts were downstairs. So he'd be inside, downstairs, upstairs, inside, outside, down. And even that for like an hour, I was going bonkers, absolutely bonkers, trying to work and listening to this. So I understand what my parents were going through now. But she goes, so no, the sink was not an option. You couldn't get to it. And that's what people don't understand. So I died laughing at it. It was really funny. In your bare feet, no less. Yes, because gosh, those flip flops lasted so long, didn't they? Those ones that were just a piece of foam about this, this high, and sometimes you try to stick the toe piece back in because it would pop out or whatever. And it was always like the first week of summer, you had that blister in between your toes because you weren't used to wearing flip-flops like that. You were used to wearing your regular shoes. So you'd have that blister for like the first week. And so you toughened your feet back up again, right? Oh, yeah. Janet, you guys were 6 kids, so you sort of have pack mentality. Yes, I could stay in my house, but if you went outside, you were expected to stay outside for a while. I mean, if you came back in once and you stayed, that was fine. My mom would be okay with that, but there was no going back out after that. You were not going to go in and out, twice unless hours and hours and hours had passed. And it was like you came in right again after you left after breakfast and you didn't leave again until after dinner. That was okay. But otherwise, nope. You were out and that was it. So, whew, walk down memory lane as we're kind of getting on summer here. It's weird because I think of kids should be out and playing and everything, but I have to remember my son got out of school a month early. So kids are still in school here for about another 3 weeks. End of the first week in June, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there is generally when the kids are out. So we'll start seeing them soon. Miss Sunrise Dawn, when the streets came out, her dad whistled. If dad had to whistle, you were in trouble. That is hilarious. Bring back grade 13, an extra year. You had grade 13 in Canada? When did it end? Wow. For kids who don't go on to college, the percentage of my graduating class that went on to college, I think, was like 80%. You look at it now and it's down way, 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 way down. But, and it's not because the kids are necessarily going into, a trade or doing something else. The other thing that's really interesting here is that when I was going to school, we had AP classes, so advanced placement, and you get a college credit for it. So for every advanced placement one you took, you got some credit. I went to a college where it was one class, one credit. And I know big universities are totally different. You have credit hours and things like that. So it was easy for me. Every class I took with an AP and in high school, I got a credit for at college. Now they are actually, there are some of the schools and the junior colleges around here that, and some of the online schools actually too as well, you pair up with. And I know several people now who are actually graduating high school with an associate's degree. Great for them. I mean, it's wonderful, but it also, I don't know, just if you're then taking that associates and then going out into the workplace, I mean, I guess you've saved yourself some time, but there is something to be said for those other few years, get to 20, you're still in your teens, and the maturing that you do, you keep maturing until we're, 25, and then our brains are actually fully developed and we've got all of our executive functioning, working. To then just be into the workplace right then, I don't know. I'm not sure that getting all of that earlier is necessarily something that's a path to success. It's necessarily a good thing. I'm glad that there's an opportunity for the kids who are ahead and can take then college courses, can take actual college courses, through the college and not just the AP classes. It's good because you're keeping them interested, right? And you're keeping their minds going and they're not just sloughing off in school like I tended to do my senior year because I was bored out of my skull. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I have, you're right. An associate's degree does not take you very far, but it can shorten your time in college immensely, depending on the college you go to and depending then on what your focus is in college. And again, I just have mixed feelings about it. When I got out of college, I was 21, and was I prepared for the workplace? Was I prepared to be out on my own? I mean, yes and no. I could function. Did I really have any concept of what that meant? And did I know anything more in relationship wise? Or no, I did not. And part of that was just me and the experiences that I had and did not have because of the path that I chose and the person that I was dating at the time. So it, it's interesting. Your stepkids saved a year in college by taking AP classes in high school. Yeah, Laurelyn, I did not actually save any time. I saved classes. So there were the mandatory classes. Then I didn't have to take English. I didn't have to take a foreign language. I didn't have to take science. I didn't have to, I think I took one chemistry class, which was, we were on quarters. So that was 10 weeks. So I had 10 weeks and then I was done. So I got to take a lot of other classes that I wouldn't have been able to take otherwise. The history of Russia and politics. And I did South Africa, actually. I took a whole class on the history of South Africa and the politics of South Africa. So, because I was majoring in political science. So I just got a chance to do a lot of other things and to get exposure to a lot of other subjects I just wouldn't have been able to take otherwise if I had had to take those other classes. So it was great. you know, it was great for me for that. But all right, let's get moving into some trauma and clutter. Who's got clutter in their house? Who has clutter in their life? Put my hand over here. Because we are going to be talking about clutter, not just in terms of the physical, okay? Clutter, there is 5 different kinds of clutter, guys. And when we start talking about it, I guarantee you, you'll be going, oh, yeah, because it was really eye-opening for me. Even though my brain kind of knew this, it was putting it into words and going, yeah, So what do we talk about when we're talking about clutter? What is clutter? And I've got a bunch of notes, so if I'm looking down, you'll know why, because some of these things I want to say specifically as they are, because I thought that was just a great way of saying it. So essentially what clutter is, it's our emotional response to what's going on in our psyche. It's our head and our emotions spilling out into whatever area it is. Physical, we'll use that first because that's what I'm going to talk about first. And that's what most people are most familiar with when they think of clutter. They think of things, right? And that's definitely one way that this manifests. A lot of research has pinpointed clutter as as having a causal link between the effects of trauma and your clutter. So because you have clutter, you've got anxiety, so you've got clutter. If you fix the clutter, you fix the anxiety. There's more people coming forward, more psychologists, some research, and saying, don't think so, guys. Is there an interplay? Do they connect? They certainly do. Absolutely. But whether it's a one-to-one, I think it's better, and this to me makes more sense, thinking about clutter as another trauma response. You get anxiety, you get depression, you get clutter. They're all different ways that we respond to trauma in our life. And I think as we go through this and we talk about the different aspects of it, I think that way of thinking about it is going to make more and more sense. So why do we have clutter? Why is it a response? What is it about it? Well, clutter is caused and causes us to feel overwhelmed, paralyzed, immobile. We can't do anything about whatever we've got. And so take the physical, things can just pile up because we don't have the inner power to be able to tackle that and to fix that issue, to fix that problem. We are stuck, right? How many of you guys have felt this way? I certainly know that I have, that this is a huge reason as to why there is clutter in my life. I am so overwhelmed with everything else that is going on in my life that I can't be bothered to do housework. So the dishes pile up. Or that room has not been vacuumed in 4 years because you haven't been in it. Or whatever the situation is for you. That junk drawer that needs cleaning out. That pantry that has canned goods from 3 years ago that you haven't touched, but you haven't weeded through and gotten rid of them. The toiletries that have just stacked up because you've half used that bottle of shampoo and then decided you didn't really like it. And the conditioner, of course, that's mated with it, and you didn't like that either. And that tube of mascara that had just a little bit left in it that you thought you might still use, but then you ended up getting a new one anyway, right? Or that nail polish that you said, I might use that color again one day, and you never do. And by then it's crusted, ladies, and any of you guys who wear nail polish, you pull that thing off and it's just crusty and it's flaking all over the place and drop. I know that that's happened to me a bazillion times, mainly because I don't wear makeup a whole heck of a lot. I don't, paint my nails. I just don't get gussied up. So my stuff is older than dirt. And I have to force myself to look at my stuff and go, is this too old to use? Because I do have to think about, with makeup, especially with bacteria and, is it safe? And it's not something that you can give away. So you've got to toss it. And I know for a lot of us, tossing anything that we feel still has value, still might have use one day, is tough, really tough. Why is this so hard for us? Why do we hold on to that stuff? Well, there are several different reasons. One, the things that we hold on to, the things that tend to pile up beyond housework, the accumulated things, it can be a reflection of all the emotional baggage that we have in our lives. And that can be emotional baggage from our childhood or something as an adult. Anything that's, really hurt us, we're having a response to it. We might be keeping things. They are a reminder, and sometimes negatively, of something that has happened. Let's take childhood. Your pantry is always full because you didn't have a lot of food as a kid. So you always want to make sure that there's stuff there. The problem is you don't use it all, but you don't want to get rid of it because you still might. And so it's our response to that trauma of not having enough of whatever it is, say, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, anything that you find yourself holding on to. You can look at this and think, why am I keeping this? And the answer might surprise you. When you look at the stuff, really say, why am I keeping this? And that comes when we actually start to declutter. And we're going to get there. But we're going to talk about just the cluttering right now. And I'm not talking about hoarding, though. Hoarding is something different. It's on a different scale. It's on that next level. And the main difference between clutter and hoarding is clutter, we realize it's a problem. We know we should do something about that. Hoarding, you don't. You feel everything's fine. I need everything. Everything's here for a reason. There is no issue. It doesn't matter that I have a rat's maze in my house and things are stacked from floor to ceiling. It needs to be there. But with clutter, we know it's a problem. And we'd love to get there. We'd love to do it. But we just can't. We're just paralyzed. And we're just don't. And so things continue to pile up and they continue to pile up and they continue to pile up. Stairs, this is a perfect example, what we're talking about. Clothes on top of clothes and same hangers, many with tags on all different sizes, yes. And for some of us, why do we keep different sizes? Well, I gained weight, I lost weight, I gained weight again. You never know. So you might have clothes from size 0 to size 20, pick whatever range. When I moved from the city I used to live in, when I got divorced back here, I actually got rid of a whole bunch of clothes that were smaller sizes because I had not been able to fit into them since I had my kid. They were dress clothes. I wasn't doing that type of job anymore. I thought, I'm just never going to use these again. And they were all designer clothes. Now that I'm that size again, I kick myself, but it's been going on 14 years since I did that. Now, some of that stuff would have still been good and still be in style. I had a wonderful the darkest navy you could possibly come up, pinstripe suit with a skirt that was like between your knees and your ankles, about halfway between. It was gorgeous. It was an Armani suit. It was absolutely gorgeous. So some of that stuff would have been lasting, but other stuff, styles have come and gone. And I mean, if you don't care about styles at all, you could probably still wear it. But we hold on to these things because we think we may still use them one day. And it's kind of the concept of sale items as well. Or if you guys have, if you live in an area where people will put things out on the street, we used to have what we called bulk trash pickup day. So things that you wouldn't throw in a dumpster, bigger items, or, could even be a lot of smaller items, just, put in a huge box or whatever. You would put them out on the curb. And the trash people would come out and take them, but they had specialized, units that came out and did this. Well, if you put them out at least a few days in advance, people knew if it's on the curb, it's free game. And I mean, stuff gets snatched up by so quickly. And I know I've got actually a few pieces of furniture in here, not in my office, but in my house that I actually got from a curb that I'm like, why are you putting this on the curb? My only thing would be, I hope that somebody would take it, because if they didn't, I would take it back, and I would want to give it to Goodwill. But some people don't have a way to get it there, and they don't think about calling someplace that'll actually come and pick it up. I know Salvation Army will often do that here for larger items. Sometimes Goodwill will. But there are many places that we can give them to. So when we talk about, you're always donating clothes, Audrey? Yeah, absolutely. And they can be tax write-offs, guys. Anything you donate can be a tax write-off. Now, you do need to keep a receipt for it, and B, a picture of what it is, either a picture or video, because if the IRS comes knocking at your door, and again, I am only speaking to the US because I cannot speak to anybody else, but in the US, you can get a tax write-off for it. And the more things are worth, the harder they're going to look at you, and you might be audited for it. But if you're using fair market value and you've got pictures of what it is, and you've got documentation as to what it looked like when you donated it, and you've got a receipt from the place that you donated it to, you'll be good. You'll be good. And I didn't do it this time. And I kicked myself because I lost that write-off last year. But when I emptied my closet, I actually decided, when I lost all this weight, and except for my hoodies, I don't care what size those are, but all the pants, the shirts, pretty much everything else I went through, and I gutted my closet, and I took it all to Goodwill. Our Goodwill here actually works with some of the homeless shelters. Giving to a homeless shelter is a wonderful idea as well. I love thrift stores now. My thrift store is amazing here. It's small. There's a bigger one about 15 minutes away, but the one that's right by me is just, it's incredible. And it's because of the neighborhood and what, people will get rid of. There's some people who, they don't wear what's not in season. So every year they're getting rid of stuff, and it's like, why? So I absolutely love, I love shopping secondhand now. Plus, by doing so as well, or garage sales, I love to refinish wood. And work with that. I haven't in a while because I just don't have the space for it. And that's kind of my goal. My son moves on a little bit once he's kind of moved off. I'm pretty sure I'll be selling this place and getting somewhere else that I will have a garage where I can actually be doing some woodwork and wood refinishing, because that's very peaceful for me, very calming. And I'd love to do that. Oh, that's wonderful. Jenna gave some new furniture and things to some new Ukrainian families who came over there. Yeah, so I mean, if you've got refugees who end up in your community, Shannon says Habitat for Humanity is the best for furniture. Interesting. I did not know that you could get stuff through them. We have a place that is connected to Habitat for Humanity, and it's called Restore or something like that. And so they actually have, yes, secondhand, like kitchen cabinets and, we're talking really major things, and they will actually help you. And somebody would come to your house and help you put them in. Now, you're going to do most of the work, but there will be somebody who actually really knows what they're doing who will help you with it, which I thought was just an absolutely phenomenal idea. I love that. And especially for any older buildings that are getting, torn down, whether it's drawer pulls or the door itself, or, stained glass windows, or anything, those things, they should be reused, and they can be. And it kills me, that I just say there's so much more recycling and upcycling that we could do if more of us had that mindset. There's definitely more of us that have that mindset than in the 80s, right? I mean, that was I think the height of consumerism. We were just, Silicon Valley was exploding. A lot of people had a lot of money. Our debt was down, and it was buy, 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 buy. I think we've really turned the corner with that over the last, 10, 20 years. But there's still more that we can do. Genesis architectural artifacts are a real business. They are. There are whole places that specialize in, and I actually think there's one right next door to Restore, where you can then buy things that were part of a 1920s building, or they've saved the bricks from something. And not to say that they can necessarily be used for a building, but a patio, or, making something else around your house. I mean, here there's value, there's usefulness. These things have not outgrown their lifespan. And I think that we really need to continue with that mindset and instill that mindset in our kids. There's certain things, underwear and socks, my undergarments, all undergarments and socks, I will not buy used. Just one of those things, right? And generally my sleepwear as well. That's just my thing. But everything else is fair game as far as I'm concerned. And so, my son needed to go out and get clothes for work, and he's working a welding shop. And I said, "Where are you going to go?" I said, "Don't go to Macy's or something like that." And he's like, "Oh, heck no, I'm going to Goodwill." And I'm like, "Oh, good boy. I've taught you well. If you're just going to destroy them, why get something new? No sense. Absolutely no sense when you do that." The hardest part is transportation, Shannon. You're right. If you don't have a truck, depending on where you want to drop it off, where you want to take it to. So if it's situations like that, because I don't have a pickup, I haven't had access to a pickup in a long time. So I'm stuck with the places that actually will come out and pick it up. I know Salvation Army for big furniture items will always come out to the house and pick things up. And I think there's one or two other companies that will do so for a small fee, like $25 or something. It might be their moving company. And so when they're in the area coming back from, a run or something on the way, they'll come and they'll pick it up and they'll drop it off somewhere. it's not really much out of the way for them. They're getting some extra money for it, and they're doing good as well. So Flick says he has an entire section of town that was made out of reclaimed materials. That is wonderful. I think that is absolutely wonderful. That's what we should do. We absolutely should do. Senwen, so glad you're here. I listen to myself when I do that because I will listen to some of these videos afterwards. I realize how ditzy I sound when I do that, but yeah, whatever, right? So yeah, so all those types of things that we get and that we collect and that we have, those are, those are the reasons why. And decluttering is a very, very powerful re-regulation tool for our emotions. Because when we declutter, I mean, what happens? What happens just when you clean your house? Even if you're not taking care of that junk room or something like that, you feel better, right? You're in a clean space. It just feels good. It's, coffee. Oh, good Lord. DeAudrey, you just got me on that because when I moved out and had my own first place, somebody had given me a set of dishware, and of course it comes with coffee mugs. I had my own coffee mugs because I had been in college, and I'd lived off campus for a while, so I had my own coffee mugs. And my parents were trying to pawn off their extra ones on me. And they were a little upset that they weren't able to do it. I think that they were expecting me. They're planning on that so that they could have that space again. But yeah, those are definitely things that I would be giving to Goodwill and say, here you go. A friend of yours is always donating boxes of coffee mugs. Isn't it amazing how they just seem to multiply like rabbits? Definitely. Steris, you will be over that when I get a chance to get over there and sub, because I don't know that I've subbed to yours. So if I have not, I definitely will be. Okay, this is another thing we're going to talk about too. Mother's Keeper says sitting in a 100% clutter-free space makes me anxious. And that's why when we declutter, we need to have a little bit of a plan. Because when we declutter, it creates this void. And sometimes it just gets filled right back up again. Because if we're not dealing with those other aspects of our lives, if we're not dealing with our trauma responses, then we are just going to fill it back up because it makes us feel comfortable, right? Cluttering is a negative nesting response. It is, and what's nesting? Anyone who's been pregnant has probably done nesting. It's a way to make your space comfortable, to make it to where you feel safe and secure and comfortable, and it's how you want it. Now, do we really want cluttered spaces? Do we? Is it healthy? No, it's not. But think of it this way. When we have clutter, it's almost a barrier between us and the rest of the world. Because by having that, we can kind of push the world away, and we're pushing all of our responsibility away, and we're saying, listen, this is just how things are. I don't have a choice. I can't do anything else. I can't deal with that. I've got too much else going on. So what I'm doing now is the only thing I can do. And it kind of absolves us of moving forward. And when you think about it like that, wow, did that make sense to me? So it's not only sticking my head in the sand because I don't want to deal with stuff, it's an outcrop of that. It's a way of making sure that happens. And the more cluttered we are and the more stuff that we have around, that can make the anxiety and the depression and all those other feelings that we have even worse. But because we have all of that, we're so overwhelmed that we can't do anything. And when we can't do anything, when we feel we can't do anything about it, we don't have those choices to make. It's a lot easier when you don't have choices. It really can be. Because you go through your life and you go through your day, and this is what I do and this is what I have to do because there is no other choice. When we declutter, we're removing that barrier and we're opening up our choices in life. And what else comes tumbling in is responsibility. Responsibility to be able to manage that empty space now. What are we going to fill that with? That void that we have. When we clean, it's a physical representation of that void, but we've got that void inside of us. And we have to figure out, what are we replacing it with? Because if you don't replace it with something, you're going right back to the same place. Because having an empty void just sitting there can be very anxiety ridden. So you need to have a little bit of a plan as to, when I'm opening my choices, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with this space? Maybe it's a matter of, you've cleaned off that bookshelf and you need to put stuff at least on every shelf so it doesn't look like a huge void. And you may trick yourself for a little while in regards to that. Bye, Matrix. We'll talk to you soon. Who said a curse word? Did I say a curse word? If I did, I didn't even know it. Isn't that frightening? Or it was overwhelmed, the curse word. Clutter it's a way we actually feel like we take control. We are so overwhelmed by not having those choices. In a way, we have control over our lives because this is all we can do, and we're doing what we can, and we're doing what we have to. And so you've got a handle on that. It's a weird way of thinking. It's a distorted way of thinking. But when we're in that space, that's what makes sense to us. So let's talk about the physical. How do you declutter? Well, one, like I said, you've got to have a plan for, when I declutter this, what am I going to do with that empty space? So you want to think ahead with that. But be careful. You need to think about the big picture in regards to that, but don't be sitting in the room looking at it at the time. Because when you do, all of that, I am so overwhelmed, is going to kick you in the gut. And you're going to look at all that stuff and go, how in God's green earth am I ever going to get through all that? You start small. And if you have to start minuscule, do that. If it's one shelf of that bookshelf that you take care of a week, great. You are making progress. When we start thinking about cleaning, Really, that's kind of what decluttering is, right? We're cleaning up our space. We tend to think we have to do it all at once. And we also think when I start a project, I need to get it done. So that means doing it all at once. Guys, not going to happen. Just tell you right now, never going to happen for 99% of us. Because why is our space cluttered like that in the first place? Because we're so overwhelmed. So pick something small. If it's your closet, and if you've got clothes upon clothes upon clothes on that one hanger, pick one hanger. I'm going to do one hanger every other day. Maybe I'm starting out with one hanger every week. Every Sunday afternoon, I'm doing one hanger. And if you're going to donate the things, get them out of sight. Put them in a box and either actually get them donated or at least put them in a box and put it aside somewhere where you're not looking at it. Because if you're anything like me, the longer you look at it, the more you might want to say, on second thought, I might need that. I really should put that one back. Yeah, that one needs to go back. That was a mistake. I'm glad I still have that. You will, and you can end up doing that for everything. And that becomes a real problem. And then we fix nothing. So start as small as you need to. And don't kick yourself because you're starting so small. Don't kick yourself because of how slow the process may be. Because as you go through things, remember when I said that this physical stuff around us can be it's that physical manifestation of some of our emotional baggage? Well, you may find something that reminds you of a traumatic event. And maybe you've kept that specifically because of that. Now, you may not realize that's why it's there. But as we go through things, it forces us to look at everything and it forces us to analyze, why do I have this? Why am I holding on to this? Is there a reason other than I think it might be useful? So that's why I say start as small as you need, because you may open a floodgate of emotions. So it's really best that we don't bite off more than we can chew with this. And give yourself grace if you do. Give yourself grace if you said, I'm going to get through that entire bookshelf, or I'm going to get through that one shelf, and you got halfway through it. You know what? You got halfway through it. You got halfway through that shelf. You did something, you moved forward. So give yourself a pat on the back and figure out how you're going to tackle and when you're going to tackle that other half. Sometimes, and these can be helpful in other areas, if you're a list maker at all, which I definitely am, I'm a list maker. I will make lists of my lists. It can be helpful to look at a room and say, okay, what's most important to me? Getting the furniture cleaned off first is most important, because then at least I have places where people can sit, or I can sit if it's, your own type of space. I had to do that I've got two huge chairs here, and I love both of them. But when they're covered in stuff, I can't use them. So for my office, beyond my desk, those are the two things that I want to make sure that I keep clean so that I can actually use. So my desk and those two in my office are the most important things for me. I have piles of papers that have been sitting for forever. The goal was to file them. Now they're so old, they don't need to be in my file cabinet. They need to go into storage somewhere. It is very tempting just to take it all and put it into a big box and put it into storage. But I know that not all those papers need to be kept. Not all that stuff needs to be stored for tax purposes down the road, or, whatever, medical things I will keep. But not all of it has to be kept. And so I know I do need to go through it. So I go through it and I sort it. And I can sort it, and then I got to look at the dates. Am I going to keep it? Do I need to keep it? Is it too old that I don't need to keep it anymore now? It can be such an overwhelming idea for me. And I know that when I do it, when I do get to it, which I'm going to one day, I swear I'm going to one day, I'm going to have to start small. I'm going to say, I'm going to do that pile. And you know what? That entire pile may not get done. It's going to be half of that pile, because it can be very overwhelming. Because you have something this thick and you're basically looking at 500 sheets of paper, and, it's a lot to go through. It's a lot to go through. Yeah, Sandy, you're 100% right here. Clutter can get in the way of good relationships with people we live with. If you don't live with somebody who understands that issue, who they want to use that couch that you tend to pile things up on, or they want to be able to use that room as a guest room instead of a storage room for all of your miscellaneous things that you've kept. Yeah, it can be a real source of contention. And by not dealing with it, we are creating another layer of problem for us. But again, why do we have the clutter? We have the clutter because we don't feel that we could do anything about it. It's too overwhelming to think about. It's too overwhelming to deal with. And that's why when I started, and I always just said I'm cleaning, but when I started, I had to start with the things that were most important. I had to prioritize. And the priority was my dishes, my kitchen. That needed to stay clean. I needed to be on top of that. I needed to make sure that I was doing the dishes, let's say, at least once a week. You'd like to do them every day, but I know me, that's never going to happen. But at least I would get the stuff in the dishwasher. And so I've made little goals for myself like that, to be able to stay on top of things that really, really need to be the priority in my life. Because it's not just me here, it's my son as well. And if there's dishes piled in the sink, you can't use the sink to do other things. So that's directly affecting somebody else. And does that affect our relationship when that happens? Absolutely. And he has every right to be upset about it, because it is one of those things that you kind of expect will be done. So I've really tried to put the priority where it needs to be. And it can be difficult, because just taking care of those priority areas can take all of my energy, all the spare energy that I have. So getting to that other area that I want to get to, it's just never happening. And that's when I have to ask for help. I have to say, either I need help with the priority areas so that I can then have a little bit left to be able to start on that junk room, or to start on those office papers, or I need somebody to come in and help me with that, right? And it can be really uncomfortable to ask for help with stuff like that because we're opening up ourselves. Because again, that's a representation of all the chaos that's going on in our head. That clutter is a physical representation of all of that, about how we're feeling. So you've really got to have somebody who you're trusting and who you feel is not going to, make fun of you, or you're not going to have a problem, who's not going to judge you. Those are really critical things. Sorry, guys. My son needed to get a hold of me. He was playing charades. What? Where are you going? All right, let me know where you're going to be. I love that kid. Oh, geez. Okay, so let's let me get down here. I know that there are so many of your comments that I have absolutely not been looking at. Oh, well, now this is nice. Jenna says, my mom is the declutter queen. When she passes away, there'll be like no work for you. Awesome. Because when my parents go, yeah, we're in for it. Which my brother would just haul it all off, and I'm definitely going to be the one who's going to want to go through, everything. I'm going to want to touch everything and see if it's worth saving, worth keeping. Is it trash? Do I want to donate it? Do I want to keep it for sentimental reasons? But having gone through this and having gone through these exercises and learning about all of this, I think is it's prepared me for, because I always think about that. I always think about my parents' house. And do I want to keep it? Things that have always been there. And somebody said something once in terms of dealing with other people's things. And they said that just because something's always been there, or just because something was important to somebody else, it doesn't mean that it has to be for you. Those are other people's memories. Now, there may be certain things you choose to keep because it was always there, and then that reminds you. It's a very important reminder for you of that person because they loved it so much. And there could be things like that. But in general, I know so much of stuff that my mom has that I don't have an emotional attachment to it other than it was my mom's and she kept it. And so we need to be able to give ourselves that permission that it doesn't have to be important to us. And that can be very, very difficult when you're talking about loved ones. So I don't envy anybody who is going through it right now, or anybody who has to do it in the future. It's definitely a something I'm not looking forward to. So that really is, I think, the end of physical clutter. Dun, 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 dun. Just looking at my page. No, I really talked about all of that. I didn't even turn my page over. Got all my notes. Let me look through here real quick. Lacey, have a wonderful walk. I am so glad that you stopped by. Yep, definitely. Definitely. You overwhelm yourself and then you give up. And that's why I say you have to start as small as you need to. Whether that's you say, I'm going to take care of 2 items on that shelf. Pretty darn small, but you know what? You did it. You did it. And by applauding yourself and by truly taking that as a triumph and not going, really? I only did 2. Why should I celebrate that? Look at everything else that needs to be done. Because you did it. You got off your butt and you made it happen. So even if that's only 2 things, if you did 2 things every day, where would you be by the end of the week? That's why start as small as you need to. I do not listen to the people who say, once you start it, you got to finish it because you'll feel better. Because if you don't, then it's just going to sit there and you're not going to do anything with it. And that can be true. It may be that once you start, you get to a point, you just get so overwhelmed and you can't do it anymore. Our goal is then not to fill it up with more things. And that can be very difficult. Because again, our physical clutter around us is a representation of all of the crud that is in our brain. And the chaos and the scatteredness, everything that we feel. So the healthier we get, the healthier our environment gets as well. And it's all part of our healing process and part of learning. Yeah, Janet, sometimes some people are just not cleaners, and it's funny because when I'm healthy, when I am very healthy mentally, when I feel on top of things, I'm not a neat freak, not anymore, but I certainly will like a clean space. It makes me feel good. I don't enjoy clutter around me. But I found after I had my nervous breakdown that I was just incapable of not having clutter around. And it was because my mind was so busy. And there's just so much on it that is just one thing I cannot be bothered with. I had too much else to deal in my life. It was enough that I got my bills paid, sometimes on time. I got my son fed, and that he got to school and homework got done. This when he was younger. That was the bare necessities. And I went to work. I made money to pay the bills. The bare necessities to get along with life. Playing with my child? No. I try and set up play dates so that he had things to do, people to play with, but to take that on myself, I didn't have it. I didn't have it in me. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the thought process. I couldn't. There were times when I just could not. Then you got to deal with the guilt that comes along with that. And so all of these things can compound themselves. And again, by that happening, it is actually giving you a reason not to do it, not to declutter, because you've got so much else on your plate. This is 100% true. Shannon says, usually the state of my house is indicative of what's going on in my mind. 100%. I know that when my place is clean and stays clean, I'm doing well. Mentally, I'm doing well. I'm healthy. And it's a lot better than it used to be. It's not where it needs to be, but my room is a total disaster. Not all the clothes are put away, but at least all the clothes that are out in my actual room are clean clothes. That's a step up. But I do need to get them put away. That is something that needs to happen. And so for me, I will call a friend over, not to help me, but by having that friend over, I know that space needs to get clean. And so I'll go do it. Because I have a couch in my room, in my bedroom. And my office is right here. And so everything, so we tend to come, the upstairs, the upper floor is my floor. The bottom floor is my son's floor. The middle is communal ground. I keep these upstairs clean. He keeps the bottom stairs clean. And we both work on the middle, which is where the living room and the kitchen are. And it works. It works. So inviting someone into my space means I got to take care of that space. And it's a really good excuse for me to get off my duff and to make that time to actually clean it so that we have somewhere to go. Plus, and I just learned this on Monday, I don't have one on me, but my hair ties, okay? I have one cat who loves chewing them. Loves chewing them. He will steal them if they get put onto my side table next to my bed, or if they're left on the bathroom counter. He will take them and he will chew them in half. And of course, then I can't use them. They will chew shoelaces. They love chewing shoelaces. That my other cat gets involved in that. Moki also loves chewing plastic bags. I don't know where this comes from. And so when he's really ticked and he wants something from me, he will, as I'm sitting here, right here, he will go to my garbage can. He will tip it over and start eating the bag that is in my garbage can. Yeah. So now I have holes in the bag that has my trash in it. So lovely. Well, he upped his game even more. He has started now the ties on your hoodie. Yeah, those have started going. And the ties on your pants, sweatpants, the strings, yeah, those have started going. And I've noticed those over the past, say, 6 months. He's upped it even more now. Upped his game. I think those things got boring. So I went to go get dressed for my son's graduation, and I put my bra on, and I put one strap up. I went to go put the other strap up, and I had half a strap. So yeah, he chewed through my bra strap. That was a new height. That was a new one for him. So that was just yet another reason for me to say, I gotta put my crap away. Don't know if you guys have anything like that. Quite passive. Oh, you have no idea, Mock. You have no idea. This is the same cat where if at night you are not paying attention to him or you have not done something or he's ticked at you for whatever reason, he will knock off anything that my son has left on his shelf. He has a bookshelf, right behind him. And so it comes to about here, as he's laying down, he will knock anything off there onto the bed, onto my son. And there has been full glasses of water before. He has knocked off a glass of milk. You name it, if it's up there, he's knocked it down. If you're not paying attention to what he needs, usually it's because he wants to be fed. So I'm working. I give them wet food in the morning, dry food in the evening. So if I'm working 5, 6 o'clock and I'm not paying attention to his meowing, he will come up on my desk and he will look at me. And then he will look at something on my desk and he will take his paw and he will go, boop, and he will bat it off. And they'll sit and look at me. Still not going to do anything? Okay, we'll find something else. But So yeah, he's a dick, basically. Janet, so so great to have you. You're buying bags for donations. See, it goes right along with what we were saying. Zen, your sister's kitty used to chew on plastic bags. That is hilarious. I never knew anybody else who used to do that. They will play with the rings that come off the milk cartons and stuff. They'll play with them, but they don't chew through it. I don't know what it is. Nothing else plastic. It's only the plastic bags that he chews, and I don't have why. I have no idea why. So yeah, the bra strap was up in his game a little bit. That's he's gone into different territory now. Thankfully, it was one of my like $5 bras, just one of these crappy things that it's I needed something, so I got this package of them for like 3 for $15 or something like that. If they had been like my good Victoria's Secret bra, then I really would have been pissed. And yeah, that would we would have had words. We had serious words then, but I just thank myself that it wasn't. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other areas of cluttering, guys. So I mentioned that there are 5 different kinds of clutter, right? So there's the physical clutter, which we've talked about. There's also mental clutter, emotional clutter, relationship clutter, and time clutter. Wow, right? Wow. That's a lot of stuff, and that's a lot of stuff to clean out. But it's like anything else. Again, you can't tackle them all at once. You're going to have to take them one by one. You're going to have to take it step by step and decide, again, what's most important, what needs to happen. It may be that relationship clutter is top on your list, that the physical clutter around you is in spaces that are manageable. But you've got people in your life who need to go. You're keeping them because by having someone pay attention to you, by having someone to do something with, even if they're not a good person, even if they judge you all the time, it's that need to have a connection. It's that need to have someone there who you feel like cares for you because they're doing stuff with you. But do they really? Any of those toxic relationships in our lives, whether they're friendships, whether they're romantic relationships, sometimes they're family members. And so it may be something of that nature that needs to go first. And those are really hard ties to sever. But when we get rid of the toxicity in lives, when we get rid of the relationship clutter, and we have only people in our lives who don't judge us, who love us for who we are, who are truly there for us, then you have such a better foundation for the rest of your life, right? That's why these connections are so important, because we're getting people in our lives who understand. And the more people you have like that in your life, the less time and space you should have and should make for those people who don't. And some of those, they can be relationships we've had for a real long time and we've kept them. But just because you've had a friend for 15 years does not mean that that person, A, should be in your life, should stay in your life. But it's tough, tough, tough to let go of those. But look at it. Does something like that need to take priority so that you can breathe easier? Excuse me. Time clutter is another one of these things that you may need to look at. And this can be, I think, a little bit easier to deal with decluttering wise. It's not cluttering it back up again that I think is the difficult part. And what do we mean by time clutter? It's just that you have so much of your time devoted to other people and other things other than the things that you want to do, that you can't do those things that you want to do, or maybe even sometimes those things you need to do because you've overextended yourself to other people. And why do we do that? Well, a lot of it goes to, the need for approval. By doing something for somebody else, usually they're thankful, whether that's a false niceness or not. So being able to really look at our schedules and look at ourselves and know what kind of time we have, what kind of time do we need to have not scheduled for other people. Because that blank time is that time then that we have to be able to do things for ourselves. And whether that for ourselves things is exercising or reading a book, or starting to declutter that room. It's things that are important to us and solely us. So watching where you have time commitments can be really, really important. And when you are thinking about making a time commitment to somebody else, you really need to talk to them about what kind of commitment am I making? And you need to be 100% honest with yourself about what kind of time you have. Can I devote the time to this that it needs to? Because otherwise you may do a half-assed job, or you get halfway through it and you're like, I can't do this anymore. And then you're unreliable, and boom, 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 down goes the negative. So definitely, keep that in mind. So that's two that we've knocked out there: relationships and time. Yes, get a rescue. Get a rescue. Absolutely. If you were going to get a pet, get a rescue. Both my cats that I have now were rescues. Somebody found a litter of 6 kitties up against the side of their house, and I've got 2 of their brothers. So if I have more time and I would foster rescues to be able to find them their forever homes. I would do it once and see if I could do it. I'm not 100% sure that I'd be able to let that animal go to a forever home. This may end up being their forever home. So if I foster one and I can't let it go, I understand that I can't do that. But I will always take rescues when I want another animal versus going out and buying. Really, having a purebred, it's a status symbol. What's the point? I don't see it. Don't see it. You have a hard time finding the right bra. From somebody who needs a demi, I totally get that, because harder to find, definitely harder to find. And trying to, yeah, I know, getting invested in those bras that are too expensive. The only time I ever get Victoria's Secret is generally when I've gotten a gift card to it, because I told you last time I was in there, and it's been a number of years now, but I was shocked when it was like, more than $50 for a bra. Especially when I didn't have a person in my life who was going to see it and go, I like that. That's nice. It's like, all it is to hold the girls up. That's it. That's all it's there for. I don't even need it to really look nice. It's functional and it's practical. And at this point in my life, that's where I am. But in regards to that, so Mox says getting rid of toxic people is like throwing out that way too expensive bra that just won't fit. You're way too invested in it to get rid of. Absolutely. Yep. And you're right. That is a very good analogy. And it can be, think of any piece of clothing. It was like me holding on to all of those designer clothes for so long. They were designer names, and some of them were Italian designers. And I just, it's like, ah. And I got great deals on them. It's the only reason I had them. I got phenomenal deals on them. And it's like, I'll never get them again for that price. How can I let them go? But I'll never wear them again because I didn't know when I was going to lose the baby weight. And guess what? It was 15 years later before I finally lost the baby weight. So, yeah, you got to let it go. And letting go can be one of the hardest things. And that leads us into our next category, which is emotional clutter. And what is emotional clutter? Emotional clutter is when we are holding on to feelings from the past that do not serve any purpose in current day. Great example is that grudge you're still holding for your ex-best friend. And I use this example because it was a very true example for me for a long time. It took a number of years for me to finally let that go because it just grated on me. And the reason it ended and how it ended and the things that were said, I just, and it was so unfair. And I had a really hard time letting go of that anger and resentment. And it stuck with me. And it would color new friendships because I would be looking at them slightly jaded because I still had these other feelings inside me. That ex-best friend was never going to be my friend again. Never. When I say ex, that relationship, it was severed. So holding on all those years later to those feelings that were related to this, they did me absolutely no good. All it did was clutter up my emotions. It was one other thing that was going on inside that came to the surface sometimes and was not helpful. And I don't know about for you guys, but that is the hardest out of all of this. That is the hardest for me to let go. I can let go of a relationship easier than I can let go of an emotion. And those emotions can even be something as, say, wistfulness, but I had a romantic relationship that ended. And that stuck with me for a long time. I knew it had to end. It was going to end regardless. But there were still feelings about that relationship that I held on to, that I didn't have a love there anymore. There wasn't ever going to be anything that was going to come out of this, but there were still feelings related to it and connected to it that I held on to for a real long time. So one of my biggest things is learning how to let go of emotions. That is hugely difficult for me. One of the things that was also said, and this really relates to people who have had severe traumas in our childhood. And they've been numerous different kinds. One of the persons, if you guys have never seen any of the videos by Crappy Childhood Fairy, you got to watch some of them. She's great. She's absolutely great. And her video that deals with trauma and clutter, I linked in the description below because I just felt it was so on point. I took a lot of this information from her and added other information to it, but she really put together a great base of just understanding it. And she got a little bit in like how to deal with it, but I know she has other videos where she has on how to deal with, how to fix these issues. But she's awesome. So if you've never seen her, please check her out. But she said for her, for a long time, her identity was wrapped up in being an adult survivor of an alcoholic in the family and everything that went along with that because of all of the trauma that spewed out of that. Not just having the alcoholic father, but the lack of money because of it, because of where it went. The dirty household because they are incapable of doing anything else. Just see, it just snowballs. All of those things that come out of that alcoholism. And so living with all of that was her primary identity for a long time. Being able to let go of the emotions that she attached to a lot of these things was so freeing. She's never not going to be an adult survivor of an alcoholic in her family. It's part of who you are. We are never not going to be survivors of sexual assault, survivors of childhood sexual assault. It's a part of who we are, but it doesn't need to be our identity. It doesn't need to be the primary thing that we think of. It doesn't need to be the lens through which we look at our entire world. That lens should be us, our true us, that person underneath that survivor, that person underneath all that trauma. And it doesn't mean that you've dealt with all of it. It just means it's secondary. We've put it to the side. And we're still dealing with trauma. We're still dealing with pieces of it. But it allows our true self, it allows that person we really are to come through. Because that can't come through if we're constantly looking at things with that being our identity, with the source of our trauma being front and center, and that's the only way that we look at our world. Another really interesting thing that she talked about has to do with, where we are in this day and age. And it has to do with media consumption. And obviously social media is huge because that is actually where they say most people get their news now, where they get all of their information. It's less from any other type of media than it is from social media. We can really clutter ourselves emotionally by what we're taking in. Because we're in a day and an age with social media, it's about clicks, it's about views, it's about getting people to watch. And what do people watch the most? They watch those things that are made to shock us, that are made to agitate us, that are outrageous. We're drawn to that. It's like, why can we not peel our eyes away from a train wreck? It's human nature in a way. We just, why can't you not, the accident already happened over there. You're not a part of it. Why is there a bottleneck? Because everybody's looking at it. So it's the same thing with social media. The more content that we're consuming that irritates us, that agitates us, that makes us upset, the more emotions we are storing and we are putting in ourselves from that content. So being mindful of the types of things that we choose to watch, that we choose to consume, those YouTubers that we choose to follow, can go a long way to keeping that emotional clutter down. Now, obviously, those are other areas with emotional clutter that we've talked about, but this is a big portion of it. Big portion of it. And I see this so much with the younger generations who they school and they social media. I mean, even their friends, unless they're seeing them in person, they're getting them through social media. It's not phone calls anymore. It's hardly even text anymore. There's some form of social media that they're communicating on. So being aware of that, and if somebody shares something with you that goes, oh my gosh, you've got to see this. You can't believe what this person did. How horrible it is. Do we really need to watch that? Do we really need to put that extra emotion in our bag? So just be mindful. Be mindful of the things that we consume, the things that we watch with social media. Huge idea, critical idea, these days. So if something's not helpful, if a form of information or content is not helpful for us, if it's not truly entertaining, positively entertaining, if it's not uplifting, if it's not useful in some form or fashion, think twice before you consume it. Because if you're like us, we have a hard time purging that clutter. We just take and we take and we take and we take, and we don't ever get rid of. And until we can do that, we're just, all those feelings that we deal with because of trauma and the effects of the trauma that we have, that's enough. Really, guys. I mean, that in our daily lives is enough. So trying to get beyond watching things just because it's absolutely horrifying. All right, last thing, mental clutter. What do we mean by mental clutter? You're too tired to type, so you'll see, but you'll watch. No problems. No problems. Shannon, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for being here and joining us. Deaudrey, I don't know if she ever went to Al-Anon. I don't think that was. I have not watched all her videos, so I don't know all of her history. But I think she dealt with it. She dealt with it by going through therapy and dealing with the traumatic effects and all of those things that come along with that trauma. The anxiety and the depression and all of those emotions that we have through therapy, more than going through Al-Anon. I'll tell you, I went to Al-Anon, and because I had a a husband who was an alcoholic, and I didn't find it helpful. Um, Mainly because it's, you can love the alcoholic whether they're drinking or not. I couldn't get there. I just could not get there. And for me, it didn't give me enough tools to be dealing with everything that I was going through, and not tools that made sense to me. So it does work for some people. And some people, it makes perfect sense to them and they're able to really get a lot out of it. Or it may just be the connections that they make with other people who are going through or have been through exactly what you're going through. Same reason we connect with each other here. Unfortunately, I didn't find anybody who I clicked with in the groups. It mainly felt like it was a place for people just to come and bitch and say why me, poor me, and that was that. And it didn't feel very positive to me. So, um, and that can do with just who is running the meeting and the people who are there at the meeting, and that's going to differ from city to city. So I tried different locations, to see if the grouping was different, and the feel of the meeting was different at different locations, but I still never found anything that really clicked and worked for me. So, but I'm not going to poo-poo it if it's something that works for you. If it works, great. That's the key, is that it works. Yeah, how many of us actually know our friends' phone numbers now? I'm, you know, I I know my parents' numbers. I know my son's number. I'm not really sure that there's anybody else of their phone numbers that I have memorized. So if I lost my phone or my phone was damaged, I'd be screwed. You're waiting for that person to contact, hope that person contacts you because you don't have their number. I really need to write down on a piece of paper the numbers of the people who are most important to me in my phone, right? My actual friends and extended family, and have it just in case something like that happens. Um, but I made my son, memorize my number because it's the type of thing. Maybe you've got to use a friend's phone. You have to at least have some numbers. It's funny. I have the easiest phone number in the world, and it's my ex. It's like the only phone number he can ever remember. So if he ever needs something and he's somewhere where he has not access to his own phone, I'm the only one he calls. I'm the only one he can remember. Uh, anyway, so let's talk about mental clutter. Mental clutter is just what it sounds like. It's all that stuff that we have in our brains. And are talking not feelings, okay? Feelings and emotions, that's under emotional clutter. So it's everything that we have to remember to do today for our day-to-day lives. It's everything that we have to do in our extended lives or our plans for the future. Anything that's taking our mental power up. That's what we're talking about in terms of mental clutter. Some people aren't planners, some people aren't list makers, and that's okay. But you need to find another mechanism then to be able to help declutter your brain. By keeping all of that stuff in your memory, you've got so much to sift through. A lot of times things can get lost and you can forget about it. So maybe you're not a planner, but maybe making a list of the most important things that are in your brain is going to be helpful. Maybe it's a matter of just putting it all out there so you've got it somewhere. And this can be the same with emotional clutter as well. And your journaling can be a really good outlet for this, to be able to purge those feelings that we don't need. So think about yourself and think about how we feel inside, and what do we feel about? What are things that pop up for us? And write about all that stuff. And sometimes just the mere writing about it can help us put it in its place, and it's easier to let go that way. Sometimes it's you need to talk to somebody, whether that's talking to a therapist or talking to a friend or the head of your religious organization or talking to the wall, but talking about it out loud. I know sometimes I'm working through a problem and I will call somebody up and they can say really like 3 words. And by the end of it, I've worked my problem out. It's because I had to just go through all the mental steps. I had to figure it out. I could not do it just in my head. So working my problem out by talking about it. So it's whatever coping mechanisms you can make. It's whatever way is going to work for you. Again, I don't care what it is. If it works for you, great. Yeah, Mark, if that's what helps for you in terms of being, decluttering your brain, um, not having a lot of people that can reach you, knowing that there's only a certain number of people who are going to take up your time, that are ever going to be physically calling you, um, that can cut down then on our stress and on the amount of input we have. And the less input we have, then the less stuff is going to be cluttering up our brains or our emotions. And the mental clutter really goes hand in hand with our physical clutter. Because what did we say the physical clutter is? It's a representation of what's going on in our heads, physical representation. And if our heads are that messy, chances are things are going to be that messy around us. And so if we're able to clear up that mental clutter, you have the space, you have the capacity then to be able to deal with the physical clutter that's around you. What you don't want to do when we declutter in regards to any of these things is decluttering some things, some emotions, and we're just filling them back in with other things. And that's where the therapy can really come into play. That is where dealing with why we had these emotions in the first place, dealing with why we held on to them for so long in the first place, can be really important. Because otherwise, as some of you were saying, if I have that void, it makes me really anxious. And so I need to fill it back up again so I don't feel anxious. Well, you know what? Now you don't feel anxious, but you're feeling stressful. You're feeling emotional fatigue, mental fatigue, because you've got all of this stuff back up in your life again. So you do need to plan a little bit. If you're one of those people, you need to, and even if you're not, we need to, if we have a space, then we need to be able to use it productively. We need to be able to use it positively. I struggle with this because when I open up space, I tend to do what I want to do because I usually have so little of that time. And what I want to do is not declutter things. What I want to do is not do dishes. It's not those things that I need to do. So I end up playing a game or I end up watching some silly YouTube video, or I end up reading. I picked up reading again a couple of days ago. Big mistake for me. I can lose hours in reading. It will literally feel like 15 minutes have gone by and an hour and a half has. Seriously, I looked at the clock and it said like 2:45, and I was like, okay, cool. And the next time I looked at the clock, it was 4:30. But this is what reading does to me. I get so sucked into it. And that's why I'm a good researcher, because I get sucked into my work, and I love reading, and so I just boom. But time ceases to exist as I know it when I am reading stuff. So I have to make a plan for, if I'm going to open up space, what am I going to fill it with? Because otherwise I fill it with just stuff. And it's great if you have that time, if you can spare that time. And having unstructured time just for you to do nothing is important. Don't get me wrong on that, okay? I'm not saying you need to look at those voids and you need to keep filling them up with things that are going to be productive, getting you uncluttered, getting another task done. No. You need that space and that time just for yourself, for whatever you want to do. Meditating is one example. You need time and space set aside just for you to be able to do that. But when we are successful in decluttering our minds, our emotions, our time, we're going to find we have a much bigger section of freedom. That void that we have made from decluttering everything is going to be much, much bigger. And we have to have a plan. Because the goal is, by decluttering all of that stuff, is yes, it's going to allow us to deal with things that we need to deal with that we're not. That we're not dealing with because we're too overwhelmed. We've got too much on our minds. We've got too many other tasks to do. That's one of our goals. And so for me, if I don't plan in regards to that, I will take that entire time and use it to do absolutely nothing productive. I mean, I can spend days on days reading, literally. And that can be to the detriment of things that I actually need to do. So I had to put it down again and say that now is not the time for me to be picking up books, because I have a very, very hard time putting them down. So, Mark, this is great that you recognize this, though. You muted or blocked most of your family for call and text app. You are an autistic introvert. Your family is unfocused extroverts. And so for you, dealing with that is not adding anything to your life. It's just causing more chaos in your life. And so in a way, those are relationships that you have let go. And keep in mind, sometimes letting go of a relationship, it doesn't mean that we are letting that person go totally. It may be that we are letting go of how much we interact with that person. They're your sister. They're your mom. You don't want to let them go totally. You don't want to cut them out of your life. But the amount of contact that you have with them, the amount that you talk to them, needs to be severely pared back. Maybe they bring too much chaos or drama into your life from what they are dealing with, from what's going on, all around them. And you don't need that extra layer for you. Or maybe they're very judgmental people. And that's something else that you don't need in your life. So keep in mind with relationships, we're not always talking about letting that person go totally. Those extremely toxic people, yeah. Those people who do still have value to you, but in small doses, you don't have to let go totally, but you may need to pare back your interaction and how much you are with them or speaking to them. Yep, Sandy, it is 100%. It's very healthy to have downtime. We need to have time for ourselves. We have to be able to recharge our batteries by doing things that we enjoy. And some people put exercise in that category. I don't always, but you can. It's usually more of the things that I have to do. But we need to have that unstructured time for just us. Everybody does. And it's really important we talk to our kids about this, because I find that, like my son's generation, if they're not working at school or doing schoolwork at home, they're on their phone, which means they're on with other people or they're on with social media. And there's no other time. They don't have downtime. They may think of this as downtime, but it's really not. So challenge your kid to maybe put the phone away for an extra hour a day. Maybe challenge them to have a social media blackout for a weekend and see what they end up filling it with, and talk to them about that. What did you find yourself doing with this time then? What was interesting to you? What came to your mind? And I think you might be surprised by some of the answers. I know that when I've done this for my son, some of the things, I expect gaming to be, right up on there, because he does not have time to game like he used to. And when he games now, 9 times out of 10, it's with his friends. So in his headset. So he's talking to them at least, and he's making connection, and they're doing something that they really enjoy together. And that for him is good downtime. I have found him doing something outside, like looking at our patio and going, Mom, what if we put this here or that there? So when they're forced to fill time with things that they don't normally do, they may find different things that they like. Nisha, how are you doing? Missed you too. Missed you lots and lots and lots. I hope you're doing all right. How is that PC build coming? I hope you've got big letters on those buttons. Make things easier for you. Yes, we are talking about trauma and clutter and what the connection is between the two and why it is so important, especially as trauma survivors, as people who deal with the effects of trauma, why it's so important that we declutter our lives. So for some of the portions that you missed, Misha, you might want to go back and listen to, because we've at least touched on, and there's so much more that we could talk about and detail that we could go into with each of these, because I've barely touched on the tools for being how you do this. How do you actually do this? And I knew we weren't going to have a chance to probably get to everything, but that just gives me more material for another video, right? We'll come back to the subject. I know we will. I'd like to come back to it then in the simulcast that we didn't get going up for today. Do what you need to do, Misha. Do what you need to do. All right. Definitely enjoy the replay. Everybody, again, if you haven't hit like and check your subscriptions, please do before we end the live today and before you pop off this channel. Really, really appreciate it. But hopefully, and I like to do it either on a Saturday or Sunday, do a simulcast with the boat. Excuse me, and deal with this subject again, because it's something that so many people can relate to, and especially physical clutter for us. It's I loved hearing that statement about physical clutter being the manifestation of what is going on in our psyche. So yeah, that tornado that hits our home is directly related to the tornado that's going on in our heads and emotions, which I feel if they live in your head or if they live in your heart, live in your body, however you want to feel that. So there are 5 different types of clutter: physical, mental, emotional, relationships, and time. You may not need to declutter all of these areas. Some of them may be really good. You may have a great handle on them. Time decluttering for me is one thing I don't have to actively do in terms of me saying yes to other people. It's just that things that I have to do take up a lot of my time right now. And so I'm not getting that space that I need to. But it is what it is right now. And it's going to be that way for the month for me. So that's not really a huge issue. Relationship wise, don't really have many people in my life who I'm in contact with on a regular basis anyway. So decluttering relationship wise, not really an issue for me. Emotional and physical, woo, yeah, big ones, big ones. Mental clutter for me is, it depends. I'm a great list maker, so getting it all out of my head and onto paper is wonderful. It's just then being able to take that paper and do what's on the paper. And that has to do with other trauma that I have, right? Other effects of that trauma, I should say, as to why I feel paralyzed to not move forward with getting things done that I need to get done, or even this that I want to get done. But I can free up mental space by doing that. It's just my challenge is being able to find that motivation, finding that inner power to do it. Right? Because just because we open up space in our lives does not mean that we're going to walk through to the other side, that we're going to walk through that space getting things done now that we have the time. Because our emotions, our drive, to be productive needs to match. And so that's something that we'll definitely be exploring in another video. Oh, that's wonderful. Simoc says that My brother and I drive out to sea at least once every 2 weeks to get the local ice cream, buy new artisanal tea, and eat strudel on top of getting to the sea or getting in it. It blows away the clutter. That's just fabulous. That's fabulous. Um, that's one thing I miss about some areas is not having a local ice cream. Um, people actually making the ice cream themselves. 'Cause that's just awesome. Awesome. And I've got to know what kind of artisanal teas you have because I really do love tea. I drink coffee because it's much easier to make and I can, uh, it takes me a lot longer to make tea the way I like it. So, coffee, pot of coffee, add some cream to it. I'm good to go, right? So, that's why I'm really stuck on the coffee. But if I have my choice, if I'm just sitting down for, a glass of something hot, it's going to be tea every time. I actually just got some chai tea, actual chai tea. So these little mesh bags that have the cardamom in it and have, so they've got all the spices in there that are flowing through them. They're not all crushed up. It's not some powder that you're mixing with it. It's actual, chai tea. So I was thrilled. You throw a few of those in a pot and put that on the stove and just let it sit for an hour. And it just, now there's some teas, especially some black teas, I don't like that sit because they turn bitter and they just turn too dark. And I think that has to do with the quality of the tea. I could be wrong on this. Any of you guys who are bigger tea drinker countries, let me know. But I think it has to do with the quality of the tea. Because for me, the better the tea, you can leave the bags in longer than the steep for 8 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is. It just gets better and better, just gets richer. Yum, 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 yum. Anyway. All right. Well, we've been at this for 2.5 hours. How are you guys feeling? You feel like you learned something today? Feel ready to tackle some of your clutter? Or at least you can think about tackling your clutter. We'll dive into more tools and other different ways that you can handle some of these things in another video. We started with a few things, mainly talking about decluttering, good ways to declutter your physical space, how to think about that, how to approach it. In the video for the Crappy Childhood Fairy, she has links to tools that I think she calls them like it's daily tools, it's daily something tools, I think. And it's a free thing. You can watch it. I think it's like an hour or so, and it talks about different things that you can do on a daily basis to be able to help you deal with some of these issues. So I highly recommend that you guys check it out. She's so great. Red Bush Toffee Cream. Oh my gosh, does that sound good? Red Bush Mango Vanilla. Now this one, okay, it's not going to be the exact same thing, but I have had some of the mango teas. I love mango. I absolutely love mango. And they have been pretty good. Black tea with a whiskey cream flavor. Now that I would like as well. Yum, yum, yum. Oh my gosh, those sound so good, Mock. Ugh, I wish we had more places that we could buy stuff around here. We've got places that have like good teas, but it's just that they've imported some good tea from other countries type of thing. It's not that anyone's put a good tea together. We just don't have that around here. So you're so lucky. I am so jealous. I have one more chai bag left and then I'm out. So I'm definitely going to have to find somebody who makes good chai bags. I had a chai caramel vanilla one once that was pretty darn good. But I think that it was a little more commercial. So the other flavors, it took over the chai a little too much for my tastes. Anyway, your region drinks more tea per person than England does. Wow. I never thought about it, but I mean, most of the rest of the world are tea drinkers, right? I mean, there's some areas. I mean, Turkish coffee you hear about, and Ethiopian coffee, but a lot of times, like Kenyan coffee, wonderful, very low acid. It's a great, just kind of all around coffee that you can have. It's an export. People don't drink it there. I mean, they have it there, and the hotels have it, and there are a certain contingent of people, but 90% of people there, they drink their tea. They don't drink the coffee at all. So it even places that make really good coffee, there are people not necessarily drink the coffee. So, well, Mark, next time you go, you're going to have to email me and tell me what you got. Okay. So when are you guys due to go next? You have to tell me what you guys end up getting. I'm very interested to hear. I'll live vicariously through you. Well, I hope all of you guys have had a good time today. If I did not respond to a post in the chat that you guys put, and if it's something that's important to you, please repost it in the comments or email me about it. I do tend to get talking, and I try and look at the camera so that anybody on replay feels like they're here with me and not solely looking at the chat, because I would probably then just be chatting with you guys the whole time and never covering any content. So I think I'm getting better at following along, but especially when I get going on a bigger subject, I tend to miss a big chunk of things. So I will go through this afterwards and kind of look at it and see if there's anything big I missed. Next week you're going. All right. Got to tell me. Either drop me an email or tell me in the whatever next live we have after it. So definitely be interested to see what you end up with. Sharon, I'm glad you got something out of it. That's my goal. If there's ever a video that you're just like, yeah, that just didn't really do much for me. If I have enough of those types of comments, then I know it's a subject matter that you guys on a whole aren't really interested in. And I can kind of put it to the side. And that's okay. Because I want to be putting out the content that's most interesting to you. And, like the 2 days that we did porn, not a lot of people in our chats. And it may be that it wasn't a subject for you. I think overall it was still a very important subject for me to cover. And I wanted to do it. And I'm glad that those videos are out there now. It did not matter to me that we had a small chat in regards to that. They're there. Now, if you choose to listen to them on replay, it just wasn't something that you wanted to be involved in the chat with, that's fine. But they're there now. And if anybody ever has an issue and wants to learn more about what we were talking, please go back and watch those on replay. I do want to just clarify something with those videos too. I am not anti-porn, all right? I am not saying that all porn is bad. You should never watch any of it. How you choose good porn from bad porn, or porn that's going to be not causing additional problems, not re-victimizing people, that's touchy. That's a difficult thing. But I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to put anybody down, people who choose to consume porn. Our whole purpose in those porn videos was dealing up with the adults. It was dealing with the issue of coercion and being forced to, not being told up front what they can do. It was that, and exposing that piece of the porn industry when we're dealing with adults and dealing with how does that affect SA. Where I come down on it is I don't think there's a one-to-one relationship. I don't think that consumers of porn are more likely to go out and offend than somebody who doesn't. What ended up happening with that is we ended up looking at SA within the porn industry and looking at how many videos get made that you assume everybody consents to, but in reality, the coercion and the manipulation is at such a level that it's sexual assault. You can't call it anything else. That's not the entire porn industry, guys, and wasn't my purpose and wasn't what I was saying. But it was really interesting to then look at that side of it. The other video of kids in porn, I think, is really important if you have any young kids in your life, or your grandkids, nieces and nephews, anybody like this who is growing up today with smartphones. I think it's a really good video to watch for information, because the issue there, the concern there is about the kids who watch it all the time. They're not the kids that just pop into it and they've seen it. We're talking about the kids who end up looking at it all the time and the problems then that it can cause them, really, that it will cause them, and how it distorts their thinking and it distorts their view of the world and how they relate to a romantic partner and how they think about that person. So that was the crux there. And again, not anti-porn. It's about kids growing up on porn and those people who end up consuming it from a very young age and a compulsive-ness to it. So just things I wanted to clarify just a little bit in regards to those videos. But I'm still glad that they're out there, and I'm glad that they're there as resources for any of you guys who are interested in watching it. Kristen, how you doing? We're just kind of wrapping up here, but you can watch most of this on the watch most of it. You can watch all of it on the replay, but we're so glad that you even popped in just to say hi. We talked about trauma and clutter today, 5 different types. I'll say them again just for Kristen's benefit. We've got our physical clutter, which most of us are familiar with, mental clutter, all that stuff that's in our heads, emotional clutter, relationship clutter, and time clutter. And I touched on all of them in this video. And we will get into, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. I just had an ant crawling on me. Now he's Lord knows where, but it's on the floor, so I'll find him. But he was on my arm. Sorry, guys. At least it wasn't a spider. Then I really would have been freaked out. Whew, okay. And with that, I think we're going to be good to go. Wowzers. Yes, you're right. You're right, Michelle. Adding insult to injury. The videos that are out there then are for anyone to see, and this is one of the things that I talked about with the child porn, particularly, is that even though these rings can be taken down, the content's still out there for consumption. And again, our hope is the more we're able to talk about this, the bigger lights we're able to shine on this, the less likely these kids are going to be caught up in a situation where they can have pictures or videos taken of them, then the child porn's not going to get made. There's still stuff out there, yes, but we can prevent new stuff from being made. It's within our power. And the only way we're going to do is educating our kids from a young age as to what to look for, how to get out of the situation, finding somebody that they trust in order to tell till somebody believes you. We can make a difference. It's a huge issue. I found the ant again. There we go. Boy, we almost made it the entire video without having one of those. But the ant was crawling on the cord, guys. So yes, that is my signature now. That is my signature, is that the camera has got to go bleep at some point with with it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we'll change it. We have a different outro now. That's my outro. No, that's just my thing. If you guys all want to see at some point my camera go kaploop, that's what you got to watch me. You got to watch me through the whole thing because you never know what's going to happen. This one was after 2.5 hours, but darn it, I got it in there. Yeah, the ant took over the live stream. Oh, he's dead now. I do have another stink bug that's managed to crawl in now. Thankfully, I don't get a lot of bugs in. I just get the stink bugs usually, and they find their way in through the window holes, the tubing and stuff. And but they're easy to catch. They're very slow in general, and so they're easy to catch and flush. So I don't have too much of a problem with that. Whew. Okay, we're good now. I got my blood pumping. I don't know about you guys, but certainly did on that one. Oh, I am so glad all of you joined me today. For anybody who's joining on replay, still welcome. I hope all of you have a good rest of your weekend, a wonderful evening, and please, please, please remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, you're beautiful, you are strong, and you are loved. Hugs and love from me, from the bottom of my heart. Bye, guys. Have a great one.